Hello, hello. Dear brothers and sisters, we have another great show for you today. We appreciate the thunderous response you gave to our last video. You really like the subject, and we say thank you very much. All those who watched the video, who really appreciated it, we say thank you very much. I am Prince Ojong,
I'm
and,
Larry Ayong.
and this is Larry Ayong, le grand camarade. Il va répondre à toutes vos questions. Moi, je vais poser toutes les questions pertinentes, et puis lui va répondre.
Thank you very much, Prince. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the debate of Pan-Africa, of we who have had the opportunity of coming to the United States, acquiring some knowledge. And we are going to be sitting on the shoulders of the giants who have been before us, people like Eric Toussaint, who wrote about the World Bank, people like Osende Afana, people like Bade Onimode, people like Professor Boho. We're going to be addressing a lot of the areas that Prince is going to ask me questions about.
Okay, so to start this show, the last show when we did it, Mr. Paul Biya was missing in action. Suddenly today, we saw that he has resurrected. Okay, the doctors have done all the magic and all the prayers, all the voodoo. So it looks like Paul Biya has really beaten Jesus' record. Jesus was able to resurrect just once. So how many times has Paul Biya resurrected?
Well, I would try to quote Oscar Wilde, who says that Paul Biya should take the advice of his doctor to stop the bad habit of living like a ghost. So, but Paul Biya is on steroids, and this is symptomatic of a regime that is posited on an individual, from Nikolai Ceausescu to Pinochet to Mussolini. People thought he was immortal, and that sense of immortality was the only thing holding the government and the country together. Cameroon is sitting on a keg of gunpowder, and only one piece of dynamite is going to explode the whole country. What they are doing, they're just postponing it. You could see that he was doped, he was on steroids. I don't know how long this game is going to continue. But I think this is what I would call elder abuse. Those who are around him are now using him as a trophy because they cannot run the country without him. And so everybody's clinging to him. I am so sorry for Famen Dongo, my former director of the School of Journalism, because for him, he says, nous sommes les créatures du président de la République. He said that we are creatures, we are creatures of the president. He created us. So we are like pawns in his hands. So if he goes, what do we do? I think Famendongo is now like a slave who's been emancipated, but he has never lived any other life. So he turns around and says, my master, I just have to stay here. Where do I go? If you are not, then I am nothing. So it's
really... That's what happened with American slavery. Then what about Chantel Bongo herself? She too falls in the same mold.
Yes, the poor girl. I am more sympathetic to ladies. I'm a father of 5 girls. They dragged this little girl without any education into this power struggle with the occultism and the fact that she had to play some roles. And she's become a victim. I look at Marie Antoinette, I look at Imelda Marcos, I look at Pascaline Bongo, and I begin to doubt, is she going to have the same fate? That's my problem.
What do you think? You've seen what has happened to Sylvia Bongo in Gabon.
You're right. Sylvia Bongo, not Pascaline. Pascaline is the winner because she is the one who has put Olingingema there to continue the work of their father, Albert Bena Bongo, Omar Bongo, Ondimba, and all that. But I would like to be a little bit more sympathetic towards Chantal. Chantal is a victim of circumstances, and she has to play a role. Even when you see Grace Mugabe, she came in and was supporting her husband and said her husband can even win an election in the grave. So this poor lady, I don't know her plight, but it doesn't look good.
So when you look at Paul Biya now, they said he could not even walk down the steps of a plane. You saw the stairwell they brought, which is very short because he cannot really. So it looks like this guy feels like he's a god. He's not really appreciating what God is doing for him.
I don't look at it from the God perspective. The ways of the Lord are unsearchable. And pardon me that I should claim that I know what God is thinking. I don't know. My issue is the analysis in the tradition of potentates, dictators, people who believe that after me it's the deluge. I am the father of the nation, which is a lie. Ahiju was no father of the nation. He's not a father of the nation. But he is a victim of history. He's a hostage of history. He doesn't know where to go to. 42 years, the country is decadent. There is widespread criminality. The country is breaking apart. So he doesn't know what to do. Right now, with his cognitive decline, I think they're just holding him there. And I'm sorry for people who are buying a ticket on the sinking Titanic. This CPDM boat hit an iceberg a long time ago. But I'm shocked to see that some people still think that there's any hope for the regime. I guess it's a pretense. They're pretending while preparing for their exit.
Yeah. So now, when we look at what has happened with this resurrection of Biya again, so how do we see the next few months play out? The election is supposed to take place in 2025. How do you see it? How do you see things playing out?
I want to bet that Paul Biya will not get to the election. Well, the selection, because it's not an election. And I'm watching the way the French are going to react. They have their problems, but it has gotten to a point. You see, at this stage, Mobutu actually asked Chirac that he wanted to come and die in France.
Mm-hmm.
And France said, il faut mourir là-bas. Il faut mourir là-bas.
Chez toi.
Chez toi, il faut mourir là-bas. And he tried to call Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton told him to leave, that if he doesn't leave, they were going to be dragging his corpse on the streets because the Western alliance, after the fall of the Berlin Wall and he was no more an anti-communist bulwark, saw that he was disposable and they had already prepared Kagame to take over the stripping of the resources in the area, and they are finished with him. So that's what they do right now. I believe that the French are looking for a more appropriate person who will take over this area, because remember, the French have made it very clear. L'avenir de la France, c'est l'Afrique. Sans la France, sans l'Afrique, la France n'a pas d'avenir.
C'est vrai, Jacques Chirac avait confirmé ça aussi.
Yeah.
Mais quand on regarde la politique du Cameroun, tu penses que la France peut recommander quelle personne pour prendre le pouvoir? Chantal Bongo?
No, Prince is asking me, when I look at the scenario in Cameroon, who would France prefer? You know, we talk about the cacophony, the combobulation in the French system. They are not sure about who should be the one to take over. It's not before they could pick Olingingema in the Central African in the Gabon. In the Gabon, they had fought with the idea that Ali Bongo was dysfunctional and was not protecting their interests, and a nationalist leader was going to take over. In fact, the Professor Ondo Osa really won the election.
Yes,
but they bribed him with 10 million francs. And when they asked him the question, he said, "Je ne parle pas de ça. Moi, je ne veux pas parler de ça." It was clear. You see, I'm going to be addressing those who are saying that I'm accusing them of taking money. But when you take money, it's a quid pro quo. We're going to go through the whole process of bribery. And especially if you see the way Tinubu gave his last bribe, he was sitting with somebody like this and he just laid it under. They didn't write any paper that you could present anywhere. But so this is where we are. Central African, the CEMAC area, the French have secured Gabon. They are trying to fight and take back the Central African Republic, because that was the forest where they used to go to. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing went and seized President Bokassa's girlfriend, the Queen Catherine, and pregnanted her and started fighting for the woman with René Journick and killed René Journick because of an African woman. You can see this is like Hélène of Troy, who sank 1,000 ships. But this is where they're going.
Okay, so let's go back to Cameroon. So with the French interest, okay. So if Chantal Biya is not a good candidate, what about Frank Biya?
Okay, Chantal Biya is not a candidate. Clearly, she's not a candidate. You would have noticed she has never read a speech. The only thing she's done is dance.
But she said when Biya was in Switzerland, people were thinking that Biya is not going to resurrect. She said Moi-même, je peux gouverner le Cameroun.
Oui, that is how Grace Mugabe said. That is how Bongo's wife, what's her name? Sylvia Bongo thought. But clearly, in that context, the French do not want that kind of weak person who doesn't have the cognitive ability to be able to even identify, let alone protect their interests. So what is going to happen is that there's going to be a duel in Cameroon. Whatever succession takes place in Cameroon is going to be short-lived because the forces, the centrifugal forces that have been that have erupted from this long stay cannot guarantee. After 42 years in power, you are not going to have another stable regime. I can bet that.
Then what about Frank Biya?
Frank Biya's issue, we are going to be addressing it deeper because right now, Frank Biya's birth certificate is a forgery.
Really?
I hope you know that. Yes.
We don't know that.
Okay, well, Frank Biya's birth certificate is a forgery.
Really?
Because, yes, on his birth certificate, it is said that he was delivered by Jean-Irene Biya. But there are ocular witnesses in Cameroon, midwives who in 1975 can tell that Jean-Irene Biya, elle n'a jamais accouché. So when you claim that that is your child, that is a falsity. But okay, there is Jean-Paul Nangabanda, who also claims that that's her child and actually fought with Biya about that because he married this woman and had children with her. And there is our brother, Mark Nebo, who was the first Cameroonian journalist, a handsome journalist. Women have told me that they used to see Mark Nebo go deliver provisions when this woman gave birth.
Wow.
So for us to be able to determine the paternity of Frank Biya, he will have to be subjected to a DNA test, and he may end up being an Ambazonian.
The people have said it looks like Jean-Irene's sister was the one who slept with Paul Biya to make this baby.
Yeah, that is a myth.
Okay.
This beautiful woman was there in the house, and there were young men. There's testimonial evidence of the people who would come and take her out, like the journalists, like Mark Nebo, like Jean-Paul Nangabanda, and the fact that Jean-Paul Nangabanda actually married her. So what is clear is that today, remember Monticello in the United States of America, when Thomas Jefferson took Sally Hemings to Paris, in the 18th century, and the American press was saying, "Oh no, it's not possible. He could not be sleeping with a slave." Later on, with the advent of DNA, they found out that the black children were really Jefferson's children. The children of Sally Hemings were Jefferson's children. So stay tuned.
Okay.
We are still peeling the layers of the onion.
Then what about John Gute? Can he be a successor?
Oh my God! You make me sick because the Anglophones who work for the dictatorship of Cameroon know that the Francophones do not value them. I worked with them. If I was somebody who was ready to take crumbs as the top, I would be fighting for that position with John Gute because I'm more eloquent. I speak better French than John Gute. Come to think about it, but the Francophones do not respect Anglophones who are in power. They do not respect them, and they know that. So they accept to be second fiddles, people who do not have dignity. Somebody who will leave his beautiful wife, a medical doctor, and go and marry and go and be fornicating with somebody's wife. Those are the kinds of people like Atanganji that the regime uses.
But they said that John Gute had to call Atanganji to keep quiet and ask the Eyebe Ainsi also to keep quiet. So what power did he have to do that?
Yes, when they ask you, you are the errand boy to go calm the turbulence. You can do that. I'll never forget one southern Cameroonian politician, a very wise man from Manu, Pa Ebetabi. When we were younger, we used to go listen to them. He was telling me that the Manu man is the man who carried the bags of gold in the politics of the southern Cameroons. When he carried the bags of gold and went into where the kings were sitting, he took the bags of gold and they slammed the door on him. That is what is going to happen with we southern Cameroonians who are working for the Biya dictatorship. They know that we are not respected. But guess what? Southern Cameroon is going ahead. So really,
we cannot have a southern Cameroonian like John Gute as president or Atanganji.
That is a pipe dream.
Okay, then what about Ferdinand Gongo?
Well, Ferdinand Gongo is playing his cards. as best he can because he has the support of Chantel Biya. But as I told you, whatever transition takes place in Cameroon is going to be short-lived. It's the very kind of thing that took place with Harry Konan Bedie in Ivory Coast, where General Kasarati had to go threaten him that, look, because it was Alassane Ouattara, who was actually a Burkina a citizen who had been sent there by the World Bank to come and help Ufo Bonyi to improve the economy. And remember, Gbagbo is the one who actually gave him authorization, gave a true decree for him to run. But he had been very ambitious and was working with the French. So this is going to be something that is going to be turbulent.
So now that you're talking about, you brought now the World Bank. So let's look at these Bretton Woods institutions. Okay?
Yes.
So let's look at the context. How does it fit in the case of Cameroon and the World Bank?
Okay, Prince is dovetailing to the World Bank because we are here in Washington, D.C., and the World Bank is holding its annual meeting that it holds for the umpteenth time to pretend to alleviate poverty in Africa, whereas poverty is only increasing. And the ideas that I'm going to be expressing about the World Bank and the IMF are ideas that have been developed by giants in the African political economic system, people like Eric Toussaint, people like Bade Onimode, people like Adebayo Adedeji, people like Samir Amin, some of the great African economists who have always said that the actions of the World Bank are arbitrary, they are capricious, and they are counterfactual because the World Bank is only augmenting our indebtedness and transforming our people, our nations, into debt-peonage nations, nations that remain perpetually in debt. And as one writer says, he who makes your currency determines your politics. A country like Nigeria, a very resource-rich country, has this currency called Naira, which is like toilet paper to the dollar. But they are spending 97% of their export earnings only to pay interest on the debt. And why is the debt of African countries a problem? Because we do not have industrialization, we do not have infrastructure, we don't have machine tool factories, we do not have the funds to be able to build the kind of economy that will sustain and create jobs for our young men. So our young men are dying in the Sahara, they are dying in the Darien Pass, they are dying in Lampedusa. So we have a problem. Africa has to think about it. One of my friends talks about deglobalization for global equity. He says that the Western countries designed the World Bank and the IMF to be able to continue to carry resources from third world countries and feed the industrial economy of the West.
So Africa is a farm, and Africa is a plantation, then the West is the industry.
Yes, so that dialectic, the center and the periphery, has clearly failed. And the World Bank, by the way, there are very interesting facts about the World Bank that a lot of people don't know. For example, colonial countries which took loans from the World Bank before the independence of their colonies, when these colonies became independent, they transferred the loans to the colonies. Can you believe it?
And when you look at the example of Cameroon, while Biya was sick and in a coma, they were talking about the inability for Cameroon to pay its bills. They were really going broke.
Yeah. The Cameroon has been a highly indebted country for a long time, but remember the philosophy of the World Bank and the IMF has been to give loans to dictators so as to sustain them in power. Most of their loans were given to the Brazilian dictator Mobutu Sese Seko, Pinochet of Chile, Nicolae Ceausescu of Romania, Marcos of the Philippines, Erdogan of Turkey, and Suharto. So what they do, like right now, the donor darling in Africa is Paul Kagame. Yeah. So they give you money, you create a police state, and you create stability. They don't care whether your people are dying.
Then what do they get in return?
They get the stability to give them the ability to have the raw materials for them to continue building the economy while pauperizing and eviscerating the lives of our people. What we are proposing as Pan-Africanists is the Afro, an African currency that will be based on a basket of 20 strategic resources: copper, cobalt, tin, gold. But we have to build a gold standard. Remember, the gold reserves of the world are in the great countries. In Africa, we don't even have any gold reserves. Now, the Federation of Sahel States is starting to build its gold reserves. Because that's the kind of thing that if we eventually create a federation of African states, and I'm talking about African states or African nations, I'm not talking about the 54 nation states, I'm talking about the states, the nations of Africa, the Fulani nation, the Yoruba nation, the Igbo nation, the Kanuri nation, the Bamileke nation, the great nations of Africa as they were, and we devolve power to them, and we develop a system of derivation where the local people will take decisions about the economy. We are going to create the kind of industrialization, we are going to create the kind of magnetic levitation trains that will build an economy that will be the envy of the 22nd century.
So, let's look at, can we learn anything from the Chinese miracle?
That's exactly what it is. The Chinese build their own currency, and they have been able to build an economy that has been the envy of the world. But it is export-led because they didn't build a middle class that can consume the goods. So they are like the sweatshop of the West. If they do not have the people of the West who have a middle class that can absorb their goods, the economy is going to go down. Prince, maybe you should stop for me to clean my face a little bit. I'm sweating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Can you look at that part out?
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So basically, you're watching the show, and we have a whole lot of information for you. So you can see Mr. Larry has been talking a lot about the need to rebuild Africa so that we have one African country, one army, one economy, one society. It can be done. So from what Mr. Larry Ojong is saying is that we have to reconfigure the continent so that we have a new paradigm. So when you have one country, so we need to have one parliament. So it's very important. We need to have one parliament. They take the AU, the African Union, is really a dictator's club, even though they've transformed it from OAU to AU, it's a dictator's club. So we need to configure it in such a way that the people are governed, but they are the ones who have the power.
Yes, so Prince, we are creating Africa's critical mass. People of African descent who have come to the Western world and have got a proper education and now know that the West is taking us for a ride, that what we've been doing is a rotten deal. The World Bank creates bankruptcy. The IMF is the instant misery fund. We have to put those things aside. The people who design those things, design them. Like you must have heard about when you were going to college, you heard about W.W. Rostow, the 5 stages of economic development. Those were things which were done by Rostow, who worked for the Kennedy administration, who was talking about the fact that an economy is first of all an agrarian economy, then there will be the takeoff, then there will be the technological stage, and eventually
the information stage.
Yeah, the stage where there will be consumers. But basically, those 5 stages were just mirroring what the West wants for the rest of the world. China did not go that way. So we do not have to depend on China. We do not have to depend on the BRICS. We have to create our own currency, the Afro. And our currency will be based on solid products, 20 wonderful products: gold, tin, copper, iron, coltan, cocoa, coffee, and with quantum computing and AI, we'll be able to index the values of these goods, and they will fluctuate with the market, and will obligate anybody coming to extract our resources to pay us in our currency. That is how we'll have the resources to build the magnetic levitation trains from Cape to Cairo, from Dakar to Mombasa, to build our own continent. It can be done, and it's going to be done.
But from what I read in one of your books, the problem we're still going to face is the African elite.
Yeah.
So how can you shed light on that?
Yeah. By the way, 2 books are coming out. Prince has thrown the cat out of the bag. There is The Case Against the Nation State and Africa Tear Down Your Borders, all written, and we're just packaging them together. But basically, the African elite has now been identified as the Trojan horse People who care about placing their children and their relatives in the Bretton Woods system, the United Nations. These are people who had the money to send their children to Stanford, to Harvard, to Sorbonne, to Oxford. And so they got this education and they are beholden to the system. And they don't care about the poor people back home who are dying in the Sahara. There is human trafficking in the Sahara. The Sahara has become like a graveyard because everybody is running away. In Cameroon, young people have to, I was just looking at the picture, young people have to be running from the university to go take the equivalent of $4 to go clap for the president. They have not created jobs.
And Biya doesn't know that there's a problem.
He doesn't care. Biya says...
Does he know there's a problem?
He doesn't. He's lost he has cognitive decline. But even when he was there, he said, Je suis le meilleur élève du président français. He was there to serve the interests of the French. And by the way, he's a sweet citizen. I don't know whether you know that.
And Cameroon doesn't accept dual citizenship.
Well, but he is the exception. His children are the exception. Look at his they talk about homosexuality, but his child is a homosexual, but she can come there. So the law, this is the kind of system that Western countries have created. Third world leaders, so long as
France Outremer.
Yeah, so long as you support our policies, will allow you rule, and after you leave power, we allow your child to take over. Paul Kagame's child is being groomed to take over from him. Yoweri Museveni's son is being groomed to take over from him.
The crazy general.
Yeah, so these are the kinds of things that we are suffering. Muhammad Kaka Debi's son took over from him. Frank Biya is possibly going to try to take over from his son with the support of the French. So we are in for a lot of problems. But guess what? We who lived in the West, we who are living in the West, we have the advantage of this liberal First Amendment culture, this rule of law, where we can speak freely and support the ideas back home. And that's why they're scared of us. In fact, even the FBI, I was shocked to hear that the FBI told an Amazonian leader that as part of his plea bargain, he will not talk on the media. Because these third world countries are scared of this truth that we are telling to you people.
Yep.
You are the foot soldiers. You are the African Reserve Army, and your wisdom and your ideas are going to liberate that continent. We are just laying the groundwork. We are sitting on the shoulders of those who have already laid it. Because remember, Kwame Nkrumah worked here in the port of Baltimore.
Yep.
He saw the 50 nations of Africa come together, the 50 states of the United States come together and build a great economy. On the full faith and credit of the United States, the dollar stands. So because that dollar, they do quantitative easing, they can print as much as possible. They tell you are going to take the dollar because we back the dollar. And if you owe America and you don't want to pay, they will send their army and they will come and take the money from you.
In the beginning, America was a very weak nation, if you follow history. But because they had great pioneers, they were able to build the country into what it is today. It became an empire. But that's not the way it was. That's why Hitler never respected America. Because Hitler thought America was just a paper tiger. He didn't know America had developed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and Hitler's scientists like Abrahamson, like Einstein, collected the knowledge that had developed there and came to the United States and built this great power. And that's why, you see, I love the United States so much, because they don't only take you with your bundle of clothes, they take your intellect and they create a meritocracy where you can excel. That's why our children are in AI, they're in quantum side, they're in the production of drones. We are going to be able to replicate what we have learned in the United States back in Africa, and nobody will be able to stop us.
But we must deal with black legs. Black legs are Africa's problem. Well, black legs, you know who you are. And there are so many of them. They call themselves leaders and whatever.
Yes.
They are trying to derail us.
No,
mais comme je dis à mon grand camarade Larry, tous ces gars-là, ce sont les chiens.
Yes. You see,
la caravane passe, les chiens aboient.
Yes.
Vous comprenez?
Yes. We are not going to be addressing ad hominem attacks. But I would say for Africa and for the Southern Cameroons, I call them the 4 horsemen of the Southern Cameroons apocalypse. They are self-seeking leaders, they are self-dealing leaders, they are self-aggrandizing leaders, and they are self-serving leaders. So when they sit there, they sit tight. And part of their quid pro quo is that do not resign, remain as a leader, but do not collaborate with each other so that this movement cannot go forward. Prince, did you know that when Macron was coming here, when they weaponized the FBI to arrest, to search 3 Amazonian leaders. They refused to talk to each other. They refused even to bring a lawsuit to force the FBI to reveal the affidavit that was sent to the judge for them to order that search.
Wow.
Yes, because we hate each other so badly that we cannot even collaborate. That is where we have gotten. And when the enemy gets you there, the thing that's the best. I thank God, young men on the ground, they are singing. Now, by the way, I want every Southern Cameroonian to listen to the beautiful songs that have just been created on the Southern Cameroons. They are just wonderful. When I hear them, I am so hopeful because I know that ideas are spread when they are watered by the blood of martyrs, and the blood of our young men is not going to go in vain.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Share. Okay, let this video go viral.
We are coming back. We are coming back to those traitors. We are not leaving them. We are digging more and more revelations are going to come because we fear God, so we don't have to fear man.
So the traitors, be careful. We're going to start calling you.
And I'm going to tell somebody that I have canals because I removed him from jail in Manfe when he came from his back street journalism school in Nigeria and gave him money to move. He's the one who reminded me. My philosophy is that of Martin Luther King. What the most urgent question of humanity is, what are you doing for others? How can we have our leaders in jail and we are outside being happy that they're in jail? It brings tears to my eyes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.